Hi, I'm Mike, owner of the Group in Phoenix, Arizona. Today I want to do a follow-up video to the Rhino High Fidelity Series LPs that were announced a few weeks ago. I finally got my copy of John Coltrane's The Coltrane Sound and the car self-titled. But I kind of want to do a follow-up video and talk to you about the quality of the product and then the record's sound itself. I kind of compared this against the many other copies of the car self-titled and the many other copies of Coltrane Sound that I actually own. So I'll kind of tell you guys about my thoughts. Okay, so since I made the first video, I placed the order. About a week went by and people in town here started receiving the records and I didn't even get a shipment notification. So I got a little worried thinking maybe I did something wrong or maybe it got lost. So I was looking in my mailbox. Couldn't find an order confirmation. So I went ahead and placed an order again just so in case they sold out, I didn't miss out. So I placed a second order. About 6 hours after I placed the second order, I got an email confirmation again. And I say again because the first confirmation went to my junk box. And the reason I couldn't find it is it wasn't from Rhino, it's from Warner. But I got an email again. That one didn't go to my junk box and it said, your order has shipped. So I'm like, crap. So I emailed them again and I said, look, can you cancel my second order? I already placed an order on, for these and looks like they shipped. Sorry about that. Didn't hear anything. A week shows up later, I get my records. Super excited until I saw that they came in the cheapest, thinnest, crappiest white cardboard mailer in existence. And of course, because of that, I've got corner dings. Let's show you some corner dings. So this is my cars. I didn't take it out of the cellophane, but you can see it's kind of got a, hopefully you can see that. It's got a smash corner there, and it's got a smash corner here. And the Coltrane, not as bad, but still corner ding. And I don't ship records damaged like this. And I spend a ton of money shipping records out in really heavy duty mailers. And I spend a ton of money weeding out crappy records to not ship customers so they don't experience this. So I'm sensitive to it and I'm a little bit butthurt about it, right? But anyways, I never heard about the cancellation of the second order, so I thought to myself, well, hell, I got another try. Maybe my second ones will come in clean. Sure enough, the second one's shipped. My customer service complaint or issue went unnoticed, and they didn't cancel that order, and they sent it out. Second order arrives. Got the first. Second order arrives in the same white mailer, and I'm like, oh my God, you're killing me. Luckily, there was no damage to the jacket, which is like such a fluke. So I got nice, crispy, clean copies of the albums now. My thinking is I'll probably put the dupes in the store with the corner ding at a discount, and I'll just think to myself that I paid an extra $10, which is what I'll probably discount these, just so I could, have clean copies. And at $50 a piece, it's not the cheapest records, but cheaper than others, and it's not a total loss. And I'll chalk this up to experience that Rhino has maybe no customer service. Maybe there's one person in there plugging away. But it seems like I've gotten similar complaints that the customer service is non-existent. There is no phone number to call. There's an email that you can send, and I've sent 2 of them now over the course of, 2-3 weeks, and nothing has happened. So I don't know what's going on there. But I did hear in their defense that they're going to beef up the mailers, which is good. Didn't help here, but if it helps on the second batch, I'm all for that. They should beef up the customer service as well if you're going to be direct to consumer. Consumers like to have the ability to correspond with the people they're buying records from. From my experience as a record retailer and as a consumer, if there is an issue, there is kind of a nice satisfaction from being able to make a phone call and having somebody on the other line being, oh man, I'm sorry about that. We'll take care of you. Don't worry. Puts me at ease. I feel like it puts my customers at ease. Yeah. I bemoaned the direct-to-consumer business model on the previous video, and this is part of the reason why. A lot of people essentially said, Mike, you're just complaining because you aren't getting a piece of the pie. And all I can say on that is, no, that's not the case. I can go on about a litany of reasons why. This is just one of them. So, and again, this isn't just me that's experiencing this. From what I'm hearing from many customers and online, this is a big issue going on with Rhino right now, getting this taken care of. So let's move on from that and let's move on to the actual records. The records are like, when you get a nice crisp copy, like, holy cow. I mean, this is something to behold. Really beautiful, thick, heavy cover, beautiful artwork. You know, it's nice, high quality. The covers are fantastic. The job they did on this is exceptional. You know, comes in a polyline sleeve like it should. They've got their own unique label. Some people have kind of complained about that. I don't really care. It's not like the original label, but that's what the original's for. So, you know, why try to be original? Because it's not original. This is a reissue. But my records themselves arrived with no damage. You know, no damage. I mean, copy of the master tape. You guys probably have even seen this, but the whole production on this is absolutely fantastic. Okay, so the first thing I put on was, I have an original, but I left it at the store. But I also have at the house here a Nautilus, you know, audiophile record from the 80s. I compared it against the Mobile Fidelity copy, which has been in print on and off for maybe about 10 years. I think it's out of print at this point. I compared it against, I've got a specialty white label test pressing of the album. This is kind of cool because it's a different track order. They retrack the album in a different configuration for release than this particular copy. But this kind of has the same vibe as the original. And then I kind of compared it against the new Rhino Hi-Fi. I will say, this is definitely my favorite go-to copy of this, and I'll kind of tell you why. The original's great, but the original has a lot of compression on it. And it works in certain parts of the record kind of better than the Rhino Hi-Fi, but you lose, you're trading a lot for that. You lose the dynamic range that you get with the new Kevin Gray cut. You also lose the detail. This is very similar to the Mobile Fidelity Michael Jackson Thriller. So if you guys have both of those, you know, the original and the one-step, you can kind of infer what I'm talking about. The original was a very compressed album. It had a lot of drive because of that, but it lost all that beautiful detail that you get out of the Mobile Fidelity. I won't say that it's as night and day as those two were, but it's kind of the same vibe. When you listen to the Rhino Hi-Fi, everything just sounds more natural. So it actually sounds less like a recorded album and more like a band playing in your living room. That's kind of the way I'm going to give you an analogy here. Everything sounds a little bit more realistic and more lifelike. Drums sound more like drums. Everything seems much better placed on the sound stage. It's just a better sounding experience. Now, if I was to own only one copy, I would say this, for me, this is the way I would go. I would go with the Rhino Hi-Fi. I think even if you're a fan of this record, I can see owning the original. It has a different vibe to it, and I can see owning the Rhino Hi-Fi. They're both quite a bit different experience-wise. If you had any of these other copies and you didn't know better, you would probably be fine with these, whether it's the Nautilus or the MoFi. But I'll say, in general, you know, when compared one after the other, everything is quite noticeable. But you know, if I put this on at the store as a standalone, a lot of people I think would really dig the MoFi. It does have its shortcomings, and the bottom end of this record really suffers, and I think that's probably a lot to do with the half-speed process. But I think that is the most noticeable defect in the MoFi, is the bottom end is a little bit on the wonky side. It loses its natural, it loses its actual natural drum sound is the best way to describe it. The low end, the bass notes, the lower end drum notes, they kind of sound less like a drum kit and more like a synthesized drum kit, a drum machine. But again, that's just the best way I can go to describe it. It just sounds off compared to the Hi-Fi. So I really dig this Rhino Hi-Fi. This is a home run. It's kind of sad because I look at this and this is the best I think you're going to get this album to sound. It's absolutely fantastic. A joy to listen to. But there's only 5,000 of them. So if you really dig this album and you want the best it's possibly going to sound, get the Rhino Hi-Fi. I feel sorry for the people 2 years from now that watch this video and this is out of print and you can no longer get it. And you're like, oh, damn, I want the best I want the best version of it. And then this, who knows, maybe this could be $200-300 in the future. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. But I could see this being very desirable and very expensive in the future because it is really great sounding. And I think this will go down as probably the definitive copy of this particular album. It's great. Highly recommend it. I've listened to it like 10 times now. So if you're going to pick one up, pick this one up. Okay, let's talk about the next title, which is Coltrane. So I've got, of course, the, grab one of my copies here. I've got the Rhino hi-fi of it. And I've got, now this is an album unlike the Cars. There's a lot of great sounding versions of this. Bernie Grundman cut from, with ORG, a 45 RPM of this, all analog. He also, maybe 10, 12 years ago, back when Rhino was doing affordable copies, look at that hype sticker. LP cut from the original analog masters, package it, replicate the finest details, manufactured with more care than ever. These were very underrated back in the day. This was like 20 bucks when it came out. It was all analog. It was cut by Bernie Grundman from the original master tape. Really nice, thick, Stoughton type jackets. Might even been Stoughton back then. These were great. So there's a 33 of it, and they're pressed at RTI, which is, in my opinion, there's 3 premium plants in the world. You've got RTI, Sony, Japan, and QRP. I feel like they are putting out, as a whole, the best quality records you can buy. So a better plant on this. Back in the day, too, when they weren't struggling to keep up with demand. So it seems like everything was just of a little higher quality. But you've got the 45. You've got the 33. I've got a couple originals as well. Or not originals, but early copies. I've got, actually this is, I believe this actually is a first pressing. I'll have to double check it. This is kind of right in the time frame where the fan logo on this changed. But this is probably a first pressing, and then I've got a late 60s Monarch pressing of it. So this is kind of what I use to compare. This is an album that you don't really need to stress yourself out with too much because it's got a lot of issues. It is a Tom Dow recording, you know, did Cream, did a lot of rock titles, Aretha Franklin stuff, R&B stuff. There's wonky things on this record. So the very first thing I did is I put this on and I'm like, you know, it's one of his better recordings, right? One of Bedder's, Tom did, for instance, a way better job on this than he did on Cream, okay? Or the Aretha stuff with the massive quantity of tape hiss. So not horrible, but the first thing I noticed is there's parts of the record where like John is just playing and he's having a good time and it's lively and it's exciting, but then the backing band kind of just starts to like wander. The volume just kind of starts to wander. And I'm like thinking to myself, man, I was having flashbacks at the Doors ERC. I'm like, did they make, like, is this from a defective tape or what's the issue with this? So the very next thing I do is I put on, you know, the 60s copy. And no, it's there as well. Then I put on the Bernie cut. It's there as well. So it's a Tom issue. The whole record, that weirdness, that wonkiness to it is baked into the recording. But I will say this is a killer Coltrane record, and it's historical. So unlike certain reissues where I can say it's wonky and the original's better, this is like you're kind of stuck with this. If you want this great piece of music, you're going to have to kind of learn to live with some of the anomalies that go on with this record. But I will say this has a killer sound to it, and for what it is, I prefer this over the Bernie Grundman stuff. But the Bernie Grundman is still extremely good. But here you get the full package. You get the cover, you get the single disc. And I will say, even at 45 RPM, I kind of prefer the Kevin 33, which, it's weird. Kevin's modern 33 stuff is great. And I go back to his older Music Matter stuff when he was cutting at 45 RPM. I even prefer his modern 33s over his slightly less, 15 years ago, 45s. He just does a great job with these jazz titles at 33. So, okay, now if you have any of these other ones, I mean, like if you have one of these, do you need to run out and get the new Rhino? Probably not. It's not going to be like a home run, for instance. The Cars was a home run. It was significantly better sounding, in my opinion, than what came before it. The Coltrane, there's a lot of great copies of this. God, I look back on this. There was a point in time where you would get these in the record stores. There was tons of these Rhino titles. They did a bunch of Coltranes. They did so many great all analog $20 titles back in the day. Those days are over. But there's so many great versions of this record. You know, if you don't have it, of course, go and pick up the Rhino Hi-Fi. But if you do have it, do you need to go out? Probably not. But if you're like slightly, you know, tweaked in the mind like me, you just have to keep buying the same record over and over again. This is definitely one to own. I mean, the quality of this, just that big, thick, heavy, I mean, beautiful, glossy cover. Hard to beat. You know, it's the Atlantic Tone Poet-esque type production, you know, it's great. So, yeah, just wanted to follow up on it and tell you guys my thoughts. I dig it so far, and I'm looking forward. There's a lot of great speculation on what's coming in the future. I'm hearing rumors, and what I hear are some heavy titles, and I kind of hoped, when I thought about it, I'm like, man, you know, when I've heard some of the speculation on some of these rumors, I thought, well, I think that would have made a better statement to start off with that. But, you know, it is what it is. But I think this is going to be a really good series. And if they can figure out their customer service and shipping issues, yeah, even better. But I'm super stoked for the cars, at the very least. The Coltrane, there's a lot of great copies. But the cars, oh man, it's so very good. Everybody in the store liked it. The employees loved it. I played it multiple times in the store, multiple times in the house. It's such a great recording period, or a great album period. It really, truly is a great record. A band that I wish I got to see live, when they did that last album in like 2011, they started doing a tour. It turned out to be like 11 shows, and then that was it. And then, of course, Rick passed, so I never did get to see them live, but what an amazing band. One of my favorite bands from that era. Wish I got to see them live. All right, guys, check us out online at theingroup.com. Until next time.